Going through heartbreak isn't easy. Kageyama knows that a little too well by now. No matter how much Miwa tried, no matter how much his aunts tried, how much his grandfather tried, how much his parents tried, nothing would work. Nothing they said would cheer him up now. He's lost himself once again, trapping himself in a state in his mind where he believed he wasn't good enough, where he felt that Tsukishima would forget him, that he didn't care for the Ravenette anymore, thinking he was a waste of space. Kageyama basically pulled himself every single college class of his, sitting and listening through the lessons most of the time zoning out, mind going back to the very blonde that had done this to him, shattering his heart into a billion pieces. More than that, really. 𝕋𝕙𝕖, his grades were still up. His professors and fellow college mates didn't notice anything different, other than the sudden change of mood. Kageyama mostly decided to spend his time at home after finishing his classes, not having motivation to step out the door. He would lock himself in his bedroom, hide underneath his bed sheets, cry himself to sleep, stand in the shower as the freezing cold water fell on his body. Still, his phone rang and rang. Each time, part of him felt that Tsukishima was only going to make fun of him, talk about how dumb he was for thinking he would ever love the Ravenette, question why he ran out of that cafe when he knew Tsukishima was never going to look at Kageyama the way that he looked at the blonde. However, there was another part of him that felt different. He felt that Tsukishima was worried, not knowing why he left abruptly. Why wasn't he answering his calls or texts, hoping that there was still a chance for Kageyama? Even if it was slim and unlikely. Kag sighed, rubbing his face as he stepped out of the shower, body shivering due to the cold water drops that rested on his body. Grabbing his towel, Kageyama wrapped it around his waist as he stared at himself in the mirror. Yet again, he felt that sting in his heart, the pain that's been lingering around ever since he moved. And just like always, another memory came crashing in. I don't want to move, Kageyama cried. Warm tears rolled down his face as he stared up at his parents. His mother kneeled down slightly, twirling a small strand of black hair around her finger. We have to. You know there aren't any more good paying jobs around here for your father and I. And your grandfather's health needs to be taken care of by a good doctor, his mother spoke. Kageyama moved her hand away as he ran up the stairs up to his bedroom. There was no way he could convince them to stay. He doesn't want to leave the one thing that made his life what it was. He didn't want to leave the very thing that made his heart skip a beat every day they saw each other. With a small sigh, he looked at his now empty room. His parents had packed his things while he was playing with Tsukishima at the blonde's house. All he could do now was say goodbye, even though he didn't want to. The Ravenette opened the window in his room, climbing through and landing on the grassy surface. His sister, who was at the front of the house helping lift the boxes in a friend's truck, saw Kageyama walking through their backyard. There was a small shortcut that led to Tsukishima's house, a faster route that they always used to get to each other's houses. Where do you think you're going, kiddo? Miwa asked, leaning against the truck. Kag sighed as he looked over at his sister. Going to Suki's house, he simply responded. The older Ravenette gave the boy a thumbs up, going back to lifting boxes. Kageyama quickly ran through the backyard, easily finding his way down the shortcut. He was panting, trying to catch his breath as he looked upon Tsukishima's house. Going up the front steps, he knocked on the door. The blonde's mother answered, looking down at the boy. Tobio, are you here to hang out with Kay? She questioned. Kageyama shook his head, fiddling with his fingers. I'm moving. I wanted to say goodbye. Tsukishima's mother nodded, a sorrowful look on her face. She ruffled the boy's hair. Come on in. Kageyama gave her a small smile, immediately running up the stairs to the blonde's room. Bursting through the door, he saw the blonde sitting on his bed, reaching up to a shelf to place a new dinosaur plushie. He wanted to add more to his collection. Hi, Kags. He smiled, finally placing the dinosaur on the shelf beside the many more dinos that sat there. Hi, Kageyama greeted, closing the door. What's wrong? The blonde questioned, walking up to the Ravenette, who was close to crying. Warm tears began to spill as Kageyama started to speak. Suki, I'm moving. Tsukishima stared in utter shock at the raven-haired boy. But you're going to come back at some point. right? Kageyama shook his head, looking down at the floor. Tears began to roll down the blonde's face, bringing Kageyama into a tight hug. The ravenet wrapped his own around the other, not wanting to let go, not wanting to leave. His heart ached as he thought about life without Tsukishima in it, his heart breaking into a billion pieces. The memory soon faded away as he realized how long he had been in the bathroom for. Kageyama sighed, pulling on his clothes and fixing his hair. Leaving the bathroom, Kags dropped onto his bed, feeling his stomach rumble as he grew hungry, mouth dry as he was thirsty. He hadn't eaten or drank much ever since he ran out of the cafe, knowing it wasn't safe. However, he couldn't bring himself to eat, knowing that he was now screwed. To be continued.